Okay, happy Monday. I'm got the big potentially wheel of doom here with Affinity Publisher. I want to add some pages. Decided I'd add a bunch of blank pages. I figured we could kind of flesh out this our non-Delian tomb idea. Here's a homebrew over on the forums posted some stuff. What I thought it might be fun to do is I kind of like one of the things I liked about the Delian tomb is this idea that everyone kind of starts off with a common base and then seeing what different people do. So what I thought would be neat is here's a homebrew all stuff is I'm going to hopefully he'll continue on and this Affinity. Of course you're not responding. Why are you doing this to me? Affinity. Maybe I should have saved it. I don't know. All we do is just let folks, there's going to be the kind of here's a homebrew branch where he's created a pub and he's doing that stuff. And then I'll kind of continue on my own branch. And then if you feel like participating at some point or using it, creating your own branch, I'm going to see if I can get Affinity restarted here because it's deciding. Can we close that? Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this again. We're going to try it again and see what happens. I had a couple of ideas over the weekend, just in kind of fleshing it out. Not sure exactly how it'll work out, but we'll see. If you end up tuning into this and you didn't see the other piece of it, the idea was to create our own kind of simple adventure, right? In the spirit of that kind of the Delian tomb. As my cat, Bruce, you're gonna have to figure it out yourself today. You're good, Bruce. In the spirit of that kind of Delian tomb, we just would make our own. I just need to get those maps again. I had some stuff set up here and then I lost it all. All right, let's just do this. Throw these on here. All right, those are set. I'm gonna redraw these. I don't know. I think I remember a little bit ago. I just want to see if, well, let me hold on. This is what got me in trouble last time. Let me save this first. Save as, I don't know what to call it. Well, I'll just call it the Rattlings. Let's do that. Just want to get it saved so I don't have to do this every time. Just kind of get these, position them. And I don't know if Affinity's still having its sale, but it is quite a good deal. If you're wondering what is this thing he's in, it's his Affinity. I'm in the publisher module, which is basically their desktop publishing, their version of what's Adobe's InDesign, if you're familiar with InDesign. Okay, so got those in there. Let's save this. Let me add some pages, and here's where I went awry last time. Let's try I was going to do, there we go. Yeah, see, that should have been dead simple. I love the Affinity stuff, but any kind of software, sometimes you run into bugs. I want to close that second window to keep things. There we go. Just throw a text frame in here. There we go. Maybe have it like that. Okay. Now I can do what I wanted to do last time, which was, no, where's the, all right, I guess I got to do it from here. Have this stuff here. Yeah, I want that on that side. And I want Affinity over here. Okay. There we go. So I was thinking about background information. We have our scenario. I'm just going to write some of the stuff in here. All right, so we have our goal, which is destroying ancient evil. Okay, there we go. And then we have, I'll add this somewhere. So I like the idea and of the this kind of were rat that is. This is just some kind of iced coffee for the worker man. I've been really enjoying these light coffees of late, and I find these you get these light as in lightly roasted, get these kind of fruity flavors, and I find often that when you get especially a nice one that not only is milk not required, but milk can actually I don't know. I feel like it doesn't actually go that well. Okay, gunner goal. I'm gonna move this elsewhere. We can call this maybe background. Background, which is our scenario. And I have some more kind of background information we can throw in here. Yeah, it's gonna format things a little bit weirdly. So our background was a family living in an isolated farmstead outside the village. Oh yeah, and I had some towns. Hold on, I come up with a name for at least the town, if not the village. Let me get that. I think I had it on my phone. Let's see. And these are all placeholders, obviously, but let's see what we got. No. Shoot, it's on my iPad. They haven't synced yet, so I don't have it. Okay. Hey, Brian, you no good stuff was missed. All right, so a family living in isolated farmstead. Oh, actually, so I got to back up. So what I had was this is what I added in, or I thought of, and you guys could let me know, right? So in kind of history, I was trying to think about one of the things I've been in appreciating. Now there's Dolmenwood and some other games have kind of brought about a bringing back or popularizing kind of a fairy tale genre. Ironically, the town's name is Radville. Yeah, sort of the fairy tale genre. And I've been interested in the kind of fairy tale genre as well, but maybe in a slightly different way than what Dolmenwood and what some other things are doing. Namely, that one of the maybe the themes of kind of fairy tale or maybe fable that I've been appreciating is this concept that the person centered, human centric in a way, in that things are responding. Hey, Sean, thanks for the sub. Things are responding to human actions. So if you imagine that the movie Labyrinth, the Disney, no, sorry, the Henson, I guess now Disney, but at the time, whatever. Jim Henson's movie Labyrinth is a good example. She's the girl that has her little brother, the baby, and the baby's just holding her back, or toddler, or whatever, is holding her back, right, holding her down, and she hates it and she gets frustrated and she's like, I wish he was never here. And then of course, or whatever she wishes, I wish because she's reading about the Goblin King or something. She's like, I wish the Goblin King would take him away, something like that. And then of course the Goblin King shows up and takes the child away, and then the whole movie is her trying to get her baby brother back. If you recall the movie, more or less, right? But the idea here is you have all this fantastic stuff. You have the Goblin King, the whole world, but it's still kind of predicated on that human part. It's not necessarily just that you have these kind of goblins doing a thing, but that they are, in a sense, responding to, or maybe what gives them entry into, however you want to think of it, into our reality, maybe into to do things. What kind of opens, like opening your door to like inviting your vampire in, right? You open the door through this kind of, in our case, in the case of Labyrinth, sort of a dark wish that she doesn't mean, but she makes this dark wish, and that kind of opens the door to them. So I'm thinking about that, and in this scenario, I was thinking about, who's doing this, right? We have these ratlings, we've got uh what do you call it, like the plague stone. I think I was going to call it the plague pearl, the pearl of plague. They're doing this, and I was thinking about, well, why? What is, if we can bring it back? So we have this kind of ratlings and potentially other kind of rat folk, but what's the human part? What's the pull? What was that invitation? Brian says that the heightened emotional plea for help answered by a Goblin King, Faust, or even a Cthulhu. Yes, and what I like to think about these is that it's a dark one, right? She's not even wishing that, she's making kind of a dark wish. She is wishing for something in that it's a despair kind of thing, right? Is that kind of that despair that I want to call it. I don't think in her case, in the way the movie means it, kind of corruption, but she's definitely despairing, which in works like Tolkien and other things, that's like a bad thing, right? That's how the dark forces get to you. That's how they get to Denethor, right? Is through despair, right? And so in this and so in this despair kind of opens the door. So I was thinking about in our situation, given what's happening, what would be that kind of dark wish that might have brought this forth? Now I haven't thoroughly thought it through, but what I thought about is that the local duke, daughter of the local duke, is has been unhappy with her lot. So I thought about is, and I was going to have it be a second son, but I want to kind of not shake it up a little bit, but I always think about, like in Alien, right? Ripley was written for to be a male character, ended up being Sigourney Weaver, and it's amazing. And I think part of it is that we stopped thinking about because it was written for a man. There's not the kind of gender sort of things that they might have done. Otherwise, they just play it straight. And I was thinking about this. So I wanted to be like a son who's ambitious, maybe the second son, and so they're not getting right. They're not inheriting the dukedom. I mean, granted, there's always skullduggery, but I think the idea of the rat to me is kind of one who's sort of clever, but also is not the one. Maybe they could stab them in the back, but that kind of clever, but maybe cowardly kind of thing. And so this is someone who's maybe plotting and things, but isn't necessarily ready. Maybe doesn't feel they can get their hands dirty, whatnot. And I just wanted, and then I said, let me change it to let's genre flip it, make it the daughter who's unhappy. Poses, if you ain't first, you last. Yeah, exactly. So, and I was wondering if it could be a second daughter. I don't know, but I just thought a daughter, and maybe a daughter actually helps because there's that sense of powerlessness. And I got this idea. Well, maybe the daughter she's ambitious. She is ambitious and sees no way to better her position. And this is all very rough, right? Very rough. It could change a million times before it's done. Very rough. I think roughness is good, and I just got to fix my chair here. And roughness is good because ultimately we're just writing stuff so that hopefully that we have some kind of backing, right? So the idea for me, it was kind of asking that question, but was thinking a couple of things, right? Who's kind of masterminding this? Who's the head of the ratlings? And I thought about that. That would be an actual like a were rat, maybe not at a full power of a were rat because were rats are actually kind of strong enough. I see this as sort of a new like first level, but maybe a were rat who's not just going to fight. Like we could write that. And yeah, it's a were rat, and she's got 3 whatever plus hit dice and whatever, but she's not fighting's not her dealio. Could be one thing, or it could be somebody else. But I wanted to kind of think about like, well, what's if they do some unraveling? What kind of is there to unravel that's beyond that plot? And then I thought also it'd be kind of a neat intro. So if this part of this would be to kind of open up and maybe start a path. Hey, Magnus, kind of what could be the next step? So if we were to fast forward to the end of this adventure, the party has found the pearl, and I thought of there may be a number of ways to I guess stop the pearl. And I think that unless they're really far along, I think if without the constant pearl energy, something of that nature, they'll come back. So you can maybe save most of the folk who aren't too far gone. And I was thinking, well, what are your where might this where I don't want to make this a campaign, but I was thinking of, well, what could be some what little strings could we lay out there? So I thought about kind of the person behind the person. So at the end of it all, if they get to the were rat, they can uncover the story that she's the daughter of the local duke who has taken this. And then I thought that, well, somebody gave her these powers. Somebody turned her and gave her the ring of rot that we got thanks to who was that donated the idea of the ring of rot last week. Gosh, who was it? It was Redcaps. Redcaps last week with the ring of rot and the thing, and something had to give it to her. So I thought you could have kind of the mysterious stranger type who we don't need to identify, but we can kind of have that there as this thread of which could be there for GMs and players to take on if they want to. Is well, who somebody answered that prayer, somebody gave her that stuff. Somebody obviously had a plan that was bigger than her and this little thing, and kind of what was it, and do we want to kind of go on from there? So kind of a nice little just a little thread there that if you as the GM or you if you're would happen to be playing this for whatever reason that could be thrown out there at the end and you go, oh, like this was really interesting, and oh, what, somebody gave that to you? Oh, really? Did they tell you where they're supposed to be next steps? And then they could kind of like that could lead somewhere, maybe, or you just go, okay, maybe not. Ryan says that maybe she arranged to marry a gross old merchant who does his business in pearls, gives her one as a ring, and her vitriol turns it to plague. That's interesting. I do like the idea of her meeting somebody, so I don't want her to be totally doing it herself. But I like the idea that maybe that was part of the instrument, that ring of rot was generated from that. So yeah, I like that. I like that. A cursed neck chain of giantism on the lead rattling. Maybe I don't want to make it. I think so. The other thing with this, which I kind of dug, right, is part of the goal in terms of what we were coming from. Sort of if we were picking kind of Delian tomb like um, objectives, right? We didn't want a big dungeon, and we didn't end up having much of a dungeon at all. We really just have just some. We have basically, I think what we called it, maybe 7 kind of quote unquote rooms. 1 room farmhouse, 1 room sort of barn. Maybe call this 3 rooms here and a passage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6 in the basement, and then kind of 7 in the tavern. So that's a good number. And then I think we were looking at, well, we had some ideas in terms of the roster. So we have the rattlings. We have maybe this this advanced rattling, though. I don't know if we need that. Maybe some giant centipedes because I feel like garbage and things. I like the ooze, maybe, though I don't know how it fits. I mean, obviously we have ale, we have casks of things here because there could be maybe the pearl itself does the oozing that it's inside, and then maybe a carrying crawler or something similar. I don't know if that's OGL free or if it's if we can use that. Otherwise, come up with something else. And then we're thinking about some kind of rat chimeric creature could be kind of interesting. So I think we got kind of enough. So I don't know. Like again, remember we're kind of targeting like first levelish. So I don't know if we need a giant. And if there's the were rat, if the leader's a were rat, potentially that adds a little bit even more to it. So we might be good on the creature front. So there's our background. Okay, so let me see. So I was writing this up. So daughter local has been happy with her lot. She's ambitious. She's to better her position when she is betrothed to a local. And I like the idea. Yeah, maybe not. Let's see. Would it? Yeah, I guess a merchant. Is there such a thing as a pearl? I suppose there people must have been pearl merchant. She rebels in despair. Oh, Canada Day. Happy Canada Day. Didn't realize. Happy Canada Day. All right. She rebels in despair. To her surprise, her dark thoughts are answered in the form of a mysterious stranger who transforms her, what we call like her engagement ring into a ring of rot and gifts her. Or actually, no, I like actually. Let's sorry. Who stranger who, let's see, gives her I kind of like the idea of the Rat King's ring. Rat King's ring, which is the ring of rot. and transforms the pearl from her engagement ring into a pearl of plague. All right. So here's the one thing where now things don't have to be super tight, but I always kind of like it. So the idea I had here was, and this is where I'm not gonna say I'm struggling slightly. I gotta think about things. I think it's definitely doable. But so we have this coming on a boat, leper shrouded. Well, the thing is he's got to be able to get close to her. I guess I guess ultimately Brian Smith. I would say that is a neat image. I don't know if it works for this, but I would also say that I wasn't going to detail it. I wasn't going to play it out. So however you want to picture it in your mind, you can. If you want to feel like they're shrouded and cloaked, that totally makes sense. And if you want to make them kind of a death figure, it also makes sense. I wasn't really going to get into it, but the idea I had just in my brain was that somehow I had to get close to her, right, to make this transaction. So I feel like no one would let just have to be going on a boat. They're near a river or something, and some kind of like weird Karen like boatman starts cruising towards them. Probably going to scatter. I was envisioning something like finds her in the night, somehow gets like she's on her way to get married, and in her she has to camp overnight or something, and then in her encampment he shows up and does the thing. But I'm leaving it pretty much up in the air. So you're welcome to flesh that out however works for you. So the issue here is, so my original idea was that she's going to be converting this town into Ratling so she can have her Ratling army to become the new Duchess. At least that's the beginning of her aspirations. And I think that that's fine. And this is something that I might be thinking too deeply about it. But like, would she need their army to get? In other words, I guess the question I'm wondering is that I had a couple of angles on this. The town, given how the plot is. So remember the plot that we had before was the Ratlings had stuck the pearl around the casks of ale, and it was infecting the ale, and people drinking the ale, and that's how they're getting sick, which I think works. There is the possibility. So now it's like, okay, that I think that was fine when the we didn't really have this ultimate goal for the Ratlings. They were just kind of doing it, right? It's like, oh, what else do Ratlings do but try to poison villages with plague? Hey, fair enough. But I like to think about, well, no, I want, but I like to think about, well, what really are they doing? So now we're looking at, okay, now she's trying to raise this kind of army. I'm imagining that her father, because remember, one of the things, like in this kind of, at least in this sort of fantasy medieval thing, it's that idea of the retinue of retinues, right? So you're a duke, and to the extent that you have some knights, you have some minor landed knights or whatever that you kind of call on them, and they kind of bring their things. So you don't have a big standing army. But the advantage she has is she can basically, with that ring, that Rat King's ring, she can control the Ratlings. So she can do what kind of her dad and his lot can't do, which is have kind of direct control of, so almost a standing army, if you will, an army enslaved to her will. Yeah, the daughter is definitely still around. Brian Smith. Yes, she is the leader. The daughter is the main antagonist of this little adventure. So my idea was that she was trying to. She's her first step is take control of the duchy. Take control of this duchy, right? First the duchy and then the world, kind of thing. The issue I'm running into is not. I don't know if I even want to say it's an issue. I'm wondering, would this make the most sense for her? If it doesn't make the most sense, I'm not going to change everything around, because I'm keeping this thing. Like, this thing's happening in the town. I'm not going to switch gears completely. Just have to just kind of either just say like, well, this is what she chose, even if it's not the best thing. Because she could probably, maybe she doesn't know, you could probably sneak into the castle. Like, if it was a matter of getting into the castle, she could probably get into the castle. I mean, depending on how we feel about were rats, if she can literally just, if she hasn't taken on any kind of rodentine features, if she can really just be herself, then she could easily, not even probably, she could get back in the castle. And then the matter of, could she get the pearl somewhere? Could she get the pearl somewhere to do this to the castle? And then why wouldn't you do the castle first? Right. Why would it make sense to do the town before the castle? So I had some ideas on that. One is, this just happens to be where she was. She was traveling to her supposed wedding, and that's where all this went down. And she was traveling in a different kind of a different entourage than, say, the Duke. So the Duke's not there, and this is where things go down. And maybe even there's some kind of messy violence that happens with her entourage. Some reason why she has to target the town first and kind of take the castle more or less offensively, as opposed to by some other means. Haven't quite figured that out yet. If you have ideas on that score, it's not something I need to have. I necessarily feel like I need to have nailed down, but I just like to think about it, because we're giving this person kind of their prime motivation for doing it, which I like. But then there's a part of, well, why did she start here as opposed to in the castle? So if you got an idea for the moment, let me know, because I've come up with some things, which is mostly some variation. So the thing I've come up with, some variation of some amount of her treachery is known. And so she's not, if she goes back, she's not going to be in a position to, she'll have to sneak in one way or another. That was kind of where I came out. That she doesn't have, she can't just go in as herself, because she'll be either kind of put in a kind of house arrest or forced into a room, or she won't be able to wander around freely to be able to put the pearl somewhere. Which I think also kind of it would kind of make sense anyway, that in the castle situation, Milady isn't down to where the water sources are. And also could be that the town has a nice fixed, like this idea of the ale and things is happening there. And it's a situation where the town, a lot of people are going to be coming to get this thing. Whereas the castle may have wells, but they're going down into natural water sources. And if you drop the pearl down there, it's just going to wash away down the river and it's going to be gone. There's not that kind of central, like here, whereas the village ale house, if you will, if she kind of poisons that bit of it, she's going to get a lot more people. So that's kind of where I come out. I don't know if it's the tightest thing. I mean, I'm sure it's not. I think it kind of makes enough sense, but I'm curious to hear if you guys have any ideas. But the thing is, like the core of this adventure, I'm keeping as is with the town. So it's not something where I'm going to I switch it. If anything, I'll just leave it as look, people all the time, certainly not excluding myself, make wildly inefficient decisions, take inefficient actions. So it's not like she has to take the most logical thing. Maybe she's just got, reasons, right? Reasons. But, to the extent that we can think about it, I like to think about it. Let's see. She might have to work slowly because the pearl might be making her monstrous. Yes, or the ring, right? More likely the ring than the pearl. Because something I was thinking about too is I think I'm gonna have to adjust the way the pearl works a little bit, only because I want the party to have means to kind of deal with it. And if the pearl is just this thing of just radiating out into the ether, then it's kind of like how can the party solve it without them succumbing to it? So I was gonna maybe think that the pearl, like maybe it affects water specifically, affects liquids, things like that. That it, you put it in sort of the main, and I don't know how. I was reading about ale and like a little bit about basically reading about how basically the differences between inns, taverns, and ale houses, and basically ale, unlike what we think about ale now, was basically it was something that you had to drink quickly. It wasn't something that you held over. So I was thinking like she could put the pearl in the thing, maybe like it's in the barrel or something that is part of the ale making process. But I don't even know what the ale making process would be at this level. So maybe it makes more sense that it's beer. In any case, the thing is that with the pearl is I want it to be something where if the party gets a hold of it, which they need to, that's part of the goals of the adventure, that they're not dooming themselves, or that's something that you need an 8th level spell to dispel, because they don't have, they're not going to have it. And I don't mind if it's something where they have to take it, next steps. You've taken the pearl and you've secured it, and now you got to deal with what to do with it. I'm fine keeping it there, but if they have to hold on to it for some time to get to someone who can destroy it, I don't want them turning into ratlings. Let's see. Brian says if she shows up looking diseased, they'll be pretty wary. Maybe her act of defiance against her arranged fiance would lead to swift revenge by her cat family in the castle, so she hangs in the shadows. Yeah, I mean, it could be that there's. I think maybe the thing that works is that she's disfigured somewhat. The wearing the ring gives her this control of the rat things, but it also kind of disfigures her, which is kind of a neat idea. So that might work. Yeah, I mean, obviously her betrothed not going to be happy. Maybe, and I was thinking like maybe because the other thing I was thinking of was like, where's the Duke? Maybe the Duke went ahead and now they're waiting for her. I'm not sure. There's or maybe the Duke's still in his castle. I'm not entirely sure. But I like this idea that she's kind of that this stuff happens where she's sort of on the road, and being on the road, she's kind of reaching her absolutely low point. The stuff happens. She hatches a quick, some kind of then the scheme emerges in her dealings with the mysterious stranger. And I also like the idea. I kind of wanted to give the idea of some kind of ticking clock. So, okay. She was given 1 month to to use these items, take power in the duchy. Okay, so the daughter of the local duke has been unhappy with her lot. I'll these will go through. This is not a final version, so it is rough, but that's okay. The daughter of the local duke has been unhappy with her lot. She's ambitious and sees no way to better her position. When she is betrothed to a local pearl merchant, she rebels in despair. To her surprise, her dark thoughts are answered in the form of a mysterious stranger who gives her the Rat King's ring, a ring of rot. I'll put a cursed ring of rot, and transforms the pearl from her engagement ring into a pearl of plague. She was given 1 month to use these items to take power in the duchy. Okay. Her plan is to use the pearl to turn the town into ratlings under her control through the Rat King's ring. She would then take her army of ratlings she would then use this army of ratlings to take her father's castle and proclaim herself new duchess. Okay. I think it's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that plan. So now we kind of have an idea. And I like this because obviously as a GM, if I were someone to hand me this and I didn't like this, I could do whatever I want. But in the lacking of having some better idea, now at least if I have her on an encounter table or if they run into her, we have some idea of motivations, right? And how you might want to play her as being somebody who is she's obviously, we ambitious, and we can write some of the stuff in like a character little sheet too. But she's ambitious, but she's not a forceful person. She's using her guile, her wits, which I think is kind of on the. We could probably look at we could look up rats and kind of symbolically sort of what they mean in terms of being clever and smart, but also the dark sides of it, and maybe that's kind of part of her character is both of those sets of qualities, and that's why this scenario happened to her instead of something else. Like why rats? Because she's got this is kind of part of her personality. All right. So we got that part. And then her first victims were a family living in isolated farmstead of the village. I gotta remember. I had a name for the girl and then I lost it because it's on. I mean, I'd lose it. I just don't have it here with me. See, let me move this over here so I can look really quick. Oh, never mind. I do have it here. Haha. Okay. So the name I gave this lady is it's not a wonderful name, but it's Odavera. Odavera. There we go. Daughter of the local duke. Plan. Yep, yep, yep. Her first victims were a family living in an isolated farmstead outside the village. Odavera moved in. Used her rattlings to cleverly dig. Okay, tunnel. Like dig a tunnel underneath the town wall into the cellar of the tavern. Here they hid the pearl of plague. Drink, and through consuming them, townsfolk fall ill. Right. So we don't have a religion yet. That's fine. And I had a name for the religion. I thought. Oh yeah, Levaricum. Right. Town of. Did I have? Oh, and Stanberg was the name of the castle. So I guess part of I feel like what I'm doing here, I'm just bolding some stuff, is in a sense maybe making it a little bit more. I don't say location based, but Ratrina. No thanks. That could be her rat queen name, Ratrina. Um, so I'm setting up some things here, and some of this the party need not interface with all this, but I'm putting these things here just to kind of flesh things out a little bit more freedom to see where it's going. We have a little bit of a ticking clock now. She's got a month, so and I feel like I'll set that. The other thing with the ticking clock is she's got a month to do this, and I also feel like then I can kind of set the maths up a bit so that most everybody will be converted before the month is out, so that gives the party a little bit. Is the town will kind of will be deteriorating as the party's in there, and then it also means as a GM you can have the options of sort of when to start this. If you want to start it and give your party the most time, you could start it basically at the beginning when she's just kind of getting in. But she's just kind of in the farmhouse. Maybe even she doesn't have the tunnel yet. I don't know, like somewhere in there. Or you could say, no, we're going to start where there's only a week left, and the town is like maybe even 2/3 already most transforming. So everyone's walking around in shrouds, and everyone's kind of covered up because they're trying to hide their own rat forms, and other folks have disappeared because they've completely turned and have joined uh, Odavera's army down there in the hiding out in these warrens, but in there. So I thought that was so it gives us some options, I guess, some different ways you can run this and get some different kind of vibes going. Oh, let's see. I'll just bold that. So I think that's good for our background. Some bolding. Oh, let's see. Okay. So we got our background information. We can do some locations, I suppose. I'm not going to worry about statting things up at all yet. Oh yeah, I needed a name for the what's the name of that? What could be a good name for that poor family? What's a good okay. I'm just gonna use this. Let's see. So we've got I'm just picking some I don't know, I'm going kind of Frankish. That's just how first elements, second elements. So there's I don't want to. I mean, I kind of going with that sort of Tolkien thing where I want to. Uh, I'm looking at maybe. I mean, you know what? Was I searching for? There we go. Open this up in a new. I'll throw this in here if anyone is interested in this. I just happen to look at medieval names archive. Throw that in there. So that's that one. What's this one give us? I guess we don't have. I was kind of looking for something to be like farmer. Anything else that's going to give me? Let's see. Here we go. What is the Frankish word for farm? What do we got here? Oh, Glossby. No, I want swap that. Yeah. Well, maybe this is farm. What? What is that? Walla? What does that do? What do you mean? Don't guess. There's not farm. What? What would be another one? How could you not have farm? Meadows? Hey, hooey, hooey, yeah, hooey. All right, maybe I'll go to where's Edom Online? There you are. Where does farm come from? Oh, interesting. Fixed rent from altered firma. Okay. What about? Yeah. What about land? Land. German landia. What about meadow? Oh, that's cool. Maidwe. Fromage. And the word for cheese. Medwo. All right. So made. All right. Made. Got made. Uh, bold, bright, fight, celebrated. Mm, I don't know. What kind of name we got here? Mund, man. I like Theud. I like Guard. Hild Maidland. All right. That's fine. was first families was first victims. Yeah, for the family of Maitland the farmer. Okay. Don't want to get too caught up in the names. The reason why I kind of think about naming is part of the things I thought would be interesting. Maybe it's overkill, maybe it's not. With the idea that we name, I like the idea of this town slowly transforming into Rattlings. And so to that end, I wanted to have the town and then the surrounding village. So my conception is that there's a town that is walled, and in the town are a lot of the functional things. So I'm going to have it a hostelry, which will be where the priest is. Because I was reading that in Charlemagne's, and like in the realm in the time of Charlemagne, Charlemagne put out a call to the church to basically promoting them to establish hostelries, which is kind of where you get hotel from. I think in the word wide, but basically that's the same thing for a traveler. So the idea that there's this hostelry here, which is kind of where the church folk will be. Maybe it's next to a church or temple, but the idea that these hostelry might be run by religious folk is kind of neat, and it kind of gives a sort of a secondary place for the to kind of interact with the whatever the priest. And I like the idea of having a bunch of names. So this will be a really small town with just a few things, a kind of a hostelry, maybe a um, there'll be a miller, but that's I think even the village needs a miller because that's kind of maybe in the village area, but just some different a smithy, maybe a a baker. So you'll have these kind of functional things there, and then you have the surrounding kind of the village, maybe on the outskirts or at the bottom of the hill or kind of around the base of the hill. And so it'll be that the farms, those farmsteads will be kind of on the base of the hill, but within easy, if you need to get into the town for protection, they'd be able to kind of run up in there. Of course, and that also means that because the town is kind of up on a hill, maybe partially natural, partially um, created for the purposes of the town, that it makes it so that kind of drilling into the base of the hill sort of opens up like where this area, this void, is maybe a void that was in the natural hill kind of thing. All right, so they're kind of coming in. If you imagine sort of maybe the town wall is maybe over here or whatever, and then they kind of get in. This gets you into the town. A small engine repair shop, maybe not, unless it's a siege engine repair shop. Come get your catapult tuned. So you have some things in the town. So that's kind of where I'm going for. And so I like the idea of that. We're going to have a small number of these buildings here, and then a small number of these families, and that you could have some kind of roster where you could track them all turning, basically. And the idea that the players could interact with a bunch of these different people, maybe have some of their own kind of problems. There's maybe some of them will approach the party or some different things, or different people disappearing, because like when they fully become rattlings, they're going to kind of vanish, and maybe they go into the tavern. I mean, that'll be an interesting thing at the tavern being a locus, is people keep going into the tavern and they're not coming out again. And if the party can kind of gets in a position to see that, that's how could be how they're getting to the thing, right? So it gives us an angle into like, well, people go to the tavern and where they're not coming out, that definitely will, I hopefully would push them maybe to explore the tavern if it wasn't occurring to them. So I think kind of giving them names so that we can, if you're playing the game, you can kind of respond to people. Oh, the smith, so and so the smith, and them. Oh, so and so there's a bunch of, obviously there's going to be a bunch of farmers, but that kind of thing. What happens when a PC drinks the poison ale? Well, then they would start undergoing the transform. But I was thinking, yeah, it would be a countdown to ratification. I was thinking that the easiest, it kind of part of it would come down to how you want to run it as the GM. You could run it with your party just coming into town and weird things are going on, and run it like a location based adventure where that's the location. Weird things going into town, and certainly there will be a different clock if the PCs all went in and started drinking ale and then started to transform. Now, if the PCs didn't keep doing it, because the townsfolk are kind of repeatedly drinking the ale, if the party just is kind of hanging around and doing it, a lot, then yeah, maybe it would accelerate, maybe like more like the people in the village, but it would probably be slower. So they'd have maybe more of an opportunity to, once they start to discover that something's going wrong, they could do it. They could be. Oh, Brian says, I would think that they could be visiting the tavern often. Somebody's going to drink the ale. Yeah, there'd be no reason not to. I mean, there'd be no reason not to drink the ale, I don't think. Though you could, obviously, you could roll some dice and just to say, like, the ale is kind of skunky. Because that's the other thing about ale, which it makes it interesting for our purposes, is that ale is made fresh. So I was reading about this. I don't know if I have my link handy, but basically, I was reading about, as I mentioned a little bit ago, taverns versus inns versus ale houses. And so part of here from reading is that taverns were kind of more high end. They were the high. They were places you went to have beverages, but it seems like they were like higher end kind of beverages, wines and things like that. Apparently, like hard alcohol wasn't a thing in the Middle Ages, really. So it was, but different wines, different things like that. But it was where the connoisseur of beverages would go for a higher end drink. And the inn, of course, is like inn is more about sleeping, staying. I think taverns didn't have food. Taverns were kind of more just about the drink. Inns, food, lodging, but maybe not quite what we think. I think oftentimes, at least not till later, but you'd have these, hostels. Inns might be near kind of big towns, but like I said, with Charlemagne saying to these priests, putting up hostels in places. So, like for our purposes, I would imagine this town is on the road between places that are probably much more important than it actually is, and so you have this hostelry there, which is it's good for us. I think the inn, oftentimes in games, or inn slash tavern, whatever, is treated differently, kind of from necessity. We generally need a place in the game for people to stay and gather rumors and do whatever, but the realities were a little bit different. And then the interesting thing was, an ale house apparently was just somebody's house, and they would make ale. So I guess families would make ale for their own usage, and then if you made extra, you would sell it basically out of your house. You would have people. You basically turn a room, I guess, or if you had a multi-story or you had multiple rooms, you could turn kind of the front of your house, and you could sell ale there. Maybe people would drink ale there, or maybe it was just a takeaway. I don't remember exactly if they talked about whether you drank the ale at the ale house or actually just took it with you. Because I think taverns, you also might actually take it to go, basically, or get a container. It's worth any case. But that ale, in this case, ale was not like modern ale. It went bad pretty quickly, so you had to drink it. It was made to be drunk basically on a daily, or if not daily, then kind of multiple, sort of a few days. So you could think about other kind of liquids, right? It was not something that, you can just kind of keep it here forever. It's like, no, you're constantly kind of making it, consuming it, making it, consuming it, sort of thing. So I like the idea of actually maybe taking the tavern thing and turning it into more of an ale house where people are. This is like the town's, and ale was treated like we might drink drinking water. So people drank a lot of this stuff. It was kind of like there. It wasn't. I don't know. It probably wasn't as alcoholic as we probably think of ales now, and it was something that people were drinking like the way we would drink, kind of drinking water or drinking soda, something like that. You're going through a lot of it. So this idea that she's been supplying at least the townsfolk, maybe not the people in the farms so much, but the townsfolk with this kind of ale, and doing that. So I thought, that's pretty interesting. So maybe what will end up happening was that the party doesn't stay at the inn so much as they might stay at the hostelry, which would give them access to the priest and the priest access to them. And then, of course, if they're asking for, well, where do people go? They go to get ale from the place. If somebody did drink the ale, then I would say, or if multiple PCs or everybody drank it, they'll say, then they would start down that. And you probably at the end maybe come up with, here's what the timing looks like. I'll put some saves in there or something like that, right? But I think the easier way, maybe if you were starting this, might be to have the priest engage the party. And because the priest is engaging the party, he could basically give them the hint is like, something's going on. And why am I not getting sick? I'm not drinking the ale. Like something like that. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like, or even if they don't know the ale specifically, to say, don't, whatever's going on here, don't drink the local stuff. Right? Go down to the river. stay clear of whatever food. So they could kind of warn them a bit. But really, it's about how you would want to play it. You could totally play it with the reason why the party's in such stress to figure things out is because they are succumbing slowly to this same plague, or whoever hires them gives them the hint of I would trust nothing in town. It could be the Duke. It could be also that's another way to do it would be the Duke to send you and say like trust nothing in the town, kind of thing, and so they should be wary, right? And then you play things where they may. If the party doesn't take it literally and says, "Oh, they mean trust no one or nothing," like someone says, like, "Don't, I wouldn't trust anything in that town," and they go and start drinking, or maybe they play it safe and take water skins, and we'll put a river or something nearby, maybe going around. I don't know if that's on. I don't think it's on Heroes and Homebrews map, but we'll put a river somewhere, maybe around doing something like that, or coming on around maybe something like that. So we can put something there so that the party wants to, they can access the waters. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think that's part of the mystery they got to unravel. And if they can figure it out before it's too late, then they can reverse the curse, literally. Otherwise, they can become tools of the Rat Queen and see what happens. And then maybe they can break free of that, but then they gotta find some way to cure their lycanthropy or whatever, or to turn them back, which could be a whole fun deal. So there are definitely options. Definitely got options. All right, so the locations we've got the and the thing is too, which can be kind of fun, right? Is you can kind of seed some ideas in here. The ale is kind of slightly skunky, which could mean two things. On the one hand, it's like, well, maybe they're just not. It's still slightly older ale, which happens, and people water it down. And I think I was reading that sometimes you water it down to kind of hide that a little bit, and that could just mean that you know it's this ale that's not the freshest of the fresh. But it also could mean a thing of like it's because it's got this pearl of plague. It's been pearl of plague corrupted, right? But that's part of the thing. The corruption kind of hides in plain sight a little bit because of the tavern, or because of the nature of ale itself. So we have some locations. How am I doing on time? All right, we got some locations. Really, the main locations are we've got tavern. Gonna need to. I'm gonna need to make another. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. So we got the tavern, level 1 and level 2. 1, level 2. Then we've got the Warrens, which has let's see, we have the Eastern Tunnel, the Nest, we'll call it. Room 1, I don't know what the names for these be. Room 2, and then the Western Tunnel. Right. Them, and then we've got the farmstead, the cottage, and I'm calling it a shed. I think actually a lot of times they didn't use. I think of changing it from a full on barn to like a sort of a open area and then a shed, and the shed would essentially do the same functions here. Like the shed, the covered area might be like this much, and it would be more of a fencing situation, maybe. I don't feel super strongly one way or another. And then we just got our this would be, non-player characters. And then we would have, let's see, Oliveira, the were-rats. We have the ratlings, obviously. The carrion crawler. Giant centipede. If I don't, I was going to make these kind of system agnostic. So I don't know if I'll end up writing this out. I mean, writing out all. I mean, the ones like Basic Fantasy has them. So I could just use Basic Fantasies and just say see Basic Fantasy, or just reference Basic Fantasy. I don't know. I'll probably just write them out that way. I can just. I think the nice thing with writing about is I can kind of tweak them to be myself. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, the Chimera. That might be interesting. I don't know what it would be yet. Some kind of rat chimeric creature. Oh yeah, and the ooze. The booze. Oh yeah, giant rats. Giant rats. Yeah, so what are things to do? So here's what I need to do. So here's what we need to do. I need to draw these, and the reason why I want to redraw these is because I'll probably throw this up on itch. I'll do something with it. And these are I did post these on the forums, other places. If you want to grab these original maps and do them, I do want to kind of follow through and finish this one up into some kind of form. I'm debating whether I need a castle map if it gets to the point where she's retaking the castle. I don't really want to get into that much detail, but I might need to say something. Bo says the ooze from the pit of ooze a pair. Exactly. Or in our case, the booze from the bottom of the booze barrel. But I know Dungeon Scrawl, because I remember I looked at it before, there are some issues. So I think you have to be theoretically you're supposed to be a uh, a a paying user, I think, to get permission to use the maps. And then there's also, depending on what icons you've used, they're from different things. It just doesn't work for me. I don't want to hassle around with it. I don't want to become a paying. I don't know how it works with becoming a paying user. Can I become a paying user for a month and then download the stuff and do it? I don't know. I don't love. I can probably do the rocks better. One thing that unfortunately that the Affinity like designer doesn't have is it doesn't have a good fractal surfacing. So you kind of make all your lone bull bumps and whatever. It doesn't have a good way of just making a fractal kind of surface. So you got to do that yourself. But I can do it, and I can use my own symbols and then be free and clear of any obligations to anything. So I want to do that. And then, basically just want to write up the rooms. But I think in terms of just having, like I said, that Delian tomb, I think we have a very similar thing. We don't have a particular. I mean, we do have kind of. I feel like there's not a trap because remember one of the things we were looking at. I think we looked at. We look at the beginning. We go back and we look at what we were aiming for. Kind of do. We got the 5 to 9 rooms. We're right in there. We have basically a single dungeon, pretty much. We're staying within 1 hex. So outdoor travel is not really a thing here. We got some exploration. I think it's good. We have some interesting spaces. I think it's not super jacazed, except that we got this dungeon connecting. Our one dungeon's connecting these 2 different locations. You can get it from different areas. I might even be that there's another area to come in here. I was thinking maybe there's a well here or something, or there was something down here or the well. I don't know. I was thinking I got some ideas, but of kind of making a little bit more interactivity. But I feel like in terms of having these locations that are connected in an interesting way, I think it's kind of jacazing in a sense. we have a social element. It's not necessarily a faction, but I think idea anyways that the party can really, given that this has become less of a like a little dungeon crawl to more of a little investigation. There's a mystery going on, and depending on who the party talks to, so maybe the Duke. When you think about, well, what are these different factions? They come to the Duke, maybe the Duke's trying to find his daughter, and his daughter was last seen when her. Oh, that's pretty. Oh man, I really. So one of the daughter was last seen. I'm gonna write this down. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna have to move you down. So we're gonna have some. Right. I don't know if I'll call plot hooks, but essentially. So the first one is, all right, the party is hired by the Duke, who is looking for his daughter, last known to be spending the night at the hostel in Lavarca. All right, so that's a good one. So I just want to bump this up just for now to get here. Okay, so we have this plot hook. The party is hired by the Duke, who is looking for his daughter. Supposed to be there, right? The party is hired by the priest. That unknown priest who is alarmed by the odd happenings in the town. We haven't named the priest yet, but we've got odd happenings. And that could be one. Another one is the party visits the town and, having drunk of the ale, becomes infected. Infected to cure their infection, they must solve the mystery. And there's another one. The merchant, the pearl merchant, hired the party to find their betrothed. Last seen, in the town. So the Duke looking for his daughter, right? There was this marriage thing. The Duke, oh yeah, that's gonna make an error for me. Oop, oop. And there could be other potential townsfolk. One thing I was thinking about at some point is maybe the parties could be all as like a character gen thing. They could all be kind of related to each other, or related to people in the town. So you could, and maybe I'll still do this, where you could have a list of, here are the people in town, and how are you related to one of these folk, and they maybe reached out to you, something going on, right? Any number of things. But in terms of our main hooks, you've got parties hired by the Duke looking for his daughter. Party is hired by the priest, doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know that the daughter's missing because this all happened. Brian Smith says, gotta have a bartender if the tavern's a central spot. Well, it depends. If it's the ale house, actually, it seems like a lot of times it was a lady who would run the ale house, like kind of the ale wife kind of thing, right? That there was a lady who would make the ale. It's possible, but it doesn't have to be. We can be a little bit different, and I kind of like the idea that the hostelry becomes maybe the tavern in a sense. So you end up giving the priest kind of will give you. So I like about having it the hostel be the place is that it's going to be run by the priest, or it could be a cleric. I don't know. I'm just using priest as a term. And then that gives a reason why for them to be talking to the priest, who is not going to be drinking the ale. So will be kind of free of this infection, though they may not know why. And so we're kind of wherever I imagine if they go to the town, wherever they end up working for, the priest is going to have access. So the priest could kind of be somebody to kind of give them a little bit of a hint, helping hand, or a warning or something, because they're staying there. And maybe the hostelry has some other kind of well or something. There's some kind of source of clean water. Perpetual stew. I don't think I've heard of perpetual stew. Do I need? I feel like that's something I need to look up now. What is that? No. Where is perpetual stew? Oh, I must have closed it up. No, I don't know about perpetual stew. I'll have to look that up. Is it just kind of like they keep adding to it and never just keeps bubbling away? Kind of like ramen. So I like that. So we got some different hooks. Duke, the priest. They just get the town, or maybe they're coming from the other way. Or if this town, the next town over is maybe where the merchant lives, and he could hire the party and the party begins, but now they're looking for that one. And so we have these different. You can feel like you got these little kind of triangle, like these little. If we were to kind of plot, let's just do this real quick for you. And if we were sort of gonna mind map this out a little bit, right? We've got actually. Hold on a minute. I don't want that. I want an actual shape. Nope. I want there we go. Shape. So we got the Duke. Ugh. All right, we've got Vera. And then we've got the merchant. And so we have this kind of triangle here, right? With these different. Ugh. Kind of got that going on. Bo says the perpetual stew is kept at a low simmer for centuries. Ingredients get replenished daily. I got you. Yeah, they totally would have some kind of stew. Absolutely. Absolutely, it does seem a lot like I think ramen works a lot like that, where they keep the broth kind of going and going and going and going. So we kind of have that little triangle, that kind of thing going on, and then we've also got the town, whoops. I feel like I want a different shape kind of thing. But I think this is really the important one. So we have these three forces. So if however the party gets kind of introed in here, if it's the Duke, then I think they're doing that. If it's the merchant, we could see this kind of relationship building up, and then different things can kind of inform these relationships. What does the priest know? The priest might know, the priest is going to know. Now he's not going to know about the merchant, though maybe he would. He might, because maybe the merchant's traveled through there. He's definitely going to know about the Duke, right? He's definitely going to know about her, and maybe he does really know about something like that. So we get this nice kind of relationship, and depending on who you ask, the one person who's not really going to be available to talk is the merchant, unless we place the merchant in town, which we could. We could have the merchants also visiting. Because one thing I like it, so my idea was, and who knows how much of this would actually get worked, right? And I think that's part of where I need to slow my roll sometimes, but I like to kind of at least give the thing. So somehow I feel like I would address, if I'm the character, and especially if I'm really vibing with the investigation kind of thing, like I'm digging it, I'm into it. If the Duke hires me, I'm gonna want to talk to the pearl merchant. My daughter's disappeared. She was supposed to be betrothed, right? Like, okay, if I'm Columbo, my Columbo sense might be tingling. Maybe she wanted to run away, whatever. I'm gonna want to talk to the pearl merchant. Maybe the pearl merchant is arriving in the town or something, so that he's available. And it could be interesting too if he gets converted. There's some interesting stuff can happen there too. And then obviously if we just run into the priest or whatever, the priest probably is going to have something about all of this. I don't know if there's going to be a confession kind of thing. I don't want to get too far down to kind of the Judeo-Christian sort of dealio with, oh, she confessed to him, but maybe she confided in him, or she confided in him, or he heard her weeping in her window. Whatever. Something might know something. Maybe he knows something about the pearl merchant. Maybe he's not a nice guy, but he doesn't have to be. I mean, I don't doesn't necessarily have. It's not his fault. Like her, the thing is with this, her driver is not that he's some horrible person. He's just not good enough. Like or she decided that she couldn't make lemonade out of those lemons. Because you can look at it and say, well, one person might say, you know what, I'm going to make this guy. We're going to become a mercantile super family, and we're going to dominate the merchant world. We're going to be the best. That could be one way she could try to channel her ambition, not necessarily towards good, but towards something constructive. We're going to be the best darn merchants we can be, and you'll see when I come back, whatever, that kind of thing, right? That could be one way to do it. And we're going to become super rich and powerful, and then our kid is going to marry not a duke's whatever, but going to be like marry a king kind of thing, or whatever. Like that could be her ambition, but instead, she's being destructive in the sense that she just wants this thing to kind of wants out. She wants the fast track to domination. And so, that's how she's going, right? So I guess we'll put in our last kind of thing here. We've got the mysterious stranger. And what we don't know, and we don't know how does we and what I like to kind of keep a mystery is we don't know how the mysterious stranger interacts with these different things, and that's something that I intend to leave up to the people whoever might play this or run it, is to decide why the mysterious stranger, even kind of what they are, what they want, why do they want her to do this thing, the greater plot that might be happening. What does all this mean in some kind of grander plan? Is just kind of up there, but I like to kind of have that thread hanging out there to make it easy for someone to pull on, say, hey, if the party asks those questions, who did that? And maybe the priest knows. Oh, or it could be one of those things. Oh, I think somebody saw her. Maybe that could be getting to the farm. Maybe that's why the farm got taken out, is because she was out. She was going to run away, and the mysterious stranger found her on the road. And there was somebody out there doing something. It was like, whatever. Somebody's out there saw him, and so they had to silence the witnesses. That could totally be how how that kind of came up. And so the priest could then lead, in a sense, have that clue there for the party to dangle, which I should probably also make a note of. Note, change your color a little bit. There we go. And what did I call them? What was that family's name? Maidland. Had to be silenced to cause he witnessed Odavera's transformation. So we're getting this kind of cool web. I really hope some other folks, I know Heroes of Homebrew took up kind of the challenge. I hope they keep working on it. I'd love to see some different versions come up. I know it's everyone's you're here, but you're late, but you're here, but I'm ending. Heroes of Homebrew, you'll want to go back. you'll want to go back and watch the beginning. Just did some more kind of fleshing out of stuff. But yeah, so I think we got some good stuff here. I will continue to kind of work on this, and when I get it up into a spot, I'll post it. Like I said, Tristan, I'm definitely thoroughly enthused that you picked up the mantle, picked up the baton, and I'm curious to see where you take it. Magnus hasn't even watched part one. For shame, Magnus. For shame. But we'll see. And like I said, I'd love to see kind of folks take it, and if you do take it and you take it in certain directions, I'd love to hear about it. All the stuff I posted from last week, I'll release it with kind of the Creative Commons. Just gotta attribute it. Just give me a shout out in whatever thing you make of it, if you make something of it. Is basically all that is. But I wanted to make sure, because I think Delian Tomb also, he released his map stuff in there, so I figured I would do the same to make it open. But yeah, that's all I've got. I'll keep cranking away on this when I can. Hope some other folks will pick up the challenge as well. But if not, let me know what you think about it. The ideas and stuff. I'm really curious. I kind of like the idea of a sort of investigative adventure, a low level one. There's definitely going to be some danger. There'll be some stuff, and I don't know exactly how to do the loot for this, because there's not going to be a ton of loot. These folks aren't sitting on treasures and everything. But I think I'll have to do something where it'll be the main kind of your main employers, if that comes, will have something. These will probably be your sources, right? Either some kind of GP value, so that you can kind of get your level up or get close to it, or they'll have some items for you, something like that, so that depending on who you talk to, or even if you don't, right? If you're able to solve it, then the Duke, you may be able to work some magic with either one of those. Obviously, the priest is some stuff. So, treasure maps are greater than treasures, yes, but it's true, and I'm totally fine with that. But I do want to give there to be some reward in some way, right? So either some kind of GP value, and so you can calculate some XP. And I don't like to do kind of milestoney type things, really, because you could just say, hey, you solved the mystery, you level up. I suppose you could do that. But maybe I do it that it's tied into some of these, either people who, because you just do the thing, and so if you find her and you're able to solve it, right, these two people are going to be, if not pleased necessarily, depending on how it comes about, but they'll probably give you some reward for it. And like I said, there's some kind of ways to do it. Tristan says it's very cool to see how people interpret the base idea differently. Yes, and hopefully some folks will be inspired to do that, and hopefully I haven't made it seem so difficult, because really you could, I could be, it's me, and I kind of get into the weeds somewhat, but it doesn't have to be even as complex as I may be turning it into. But the good news is don't have a lot of rooms. So I feel like, just with this, it's like we're almost done. And the rest of it is just kind of how you want it to play at your table. All right, folks, I got to run. I'll be back. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on. Talk to you later. Bye now.